of the Orange County. I'll say that again. I'd like to call this morning's meeting of the Orange County Transportation Council Planning Committee meeting to order. We'll start with the introductions. I'm Alan Sorensen, Commissioner of Planning for Orange County and OCTC MPO Director.
Gary Spears, Town of Deerport.
Scott Manley, Town of Newburgh.
Jacob Toledo, City of Middletown.
Jason Morris, City of Newburgh.
Charlie Carnes, Town of Crawford.
Laura Ripley, New York State Freeway.
Tony Cardone, Town of Monroe.
Sweeten, Town of Warwick.
Sandra Jobson, New York State Department of Transportation.
Lauren Bennett, Orange County Planning Department.
Michael Weeks, City of Port Jervis.
Stacy Butler, Orange County Planning Department.
Raina Tawil, OCTC staff.
And if we can also acknowledge council members who are present virtually.
I don't see any council members on virtually, but we have, do you want me to read off the attendees?
Yes, I'm just going to ask the council members who just joined us to introduce yourselves.
Don Ravello, Village of Walden. Josh Wojciechowski, Town of Cornwall.
Okay, Lauren, yes.
And on the line, we have Alexandra Farley from New York State DOT, Jay Sheffield from the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, Lance McMillan, New York State DOT, Lisa Cataldo, New York State DOT, Michael Amabile, Creighton Manning, Rob Harrington, Orange County Planning Department. He's also representing the transit operators. Ryan McGuire from Orange County Department of Public Works, Travis Ewald from Orange County Parks Department, David Lake from the Mid-Hudson South TCC, and then I have a call-in number ending in 1149. I think that's Mr. G with the Village of Curious Joel. Is that correct?
Okay,
And Mr. Zeganin should be joining us around 10:30.
10:30.
Yes.
Lauren, thank you. Like to next move on to call for citizen participation. Are there any comments from the public? Either anyone here in person or online? Let's give it another 30 seconds. All right, hearing no public comments, I will move on and ask the board or the committee to ask for approval of the minutes from our August 15th, 2023 meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those? Any comments, recommendations for revisions? Okay. With that, I'll ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes. Mike?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I abstained because I was not present.
Okay. Tony, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next we'll go on to communications and announcements. The first is New York State DOT will be holding a public informational open house for PIN 8002.24, New York Route 9417A Improvement Project. And that will be on October 19th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at the Village Hall in the Village of Florida. Please reach out if you have any questions or need additional information, and we can get you in contact with the project engineer. So we're moving on to reports and actions on old business. And in terms of project updates, I'd like to ask Lauren to give us an update on the long-range transportation plan.
Yes, so since the last OCTC meeting, we've held the second public meeting for the LRTP, the Long Range Transportation Plan, which we're looking at a 2050 horizon year. And that was on August 15th. We held that in Middletown. And then the third public outreach meeting we held in Sugarloaf on August 24th. So that concludes the public meetings for the long range transportation plan update. There's still opportunities to comment and be involved. So that will introduce the draft LRTP to the planning committee next meeting, October 24th, and that will be an opportunity to discuss. And then we'll go out for the 30-day public comment period with tentative adoption on November 28th at the November Policy Board meeting. And then we'll also look to hold one final advisory group meeting, and we'll be sharing the draft version of that soon, hopefully, with those members. And we'll ask for comments before it goes out to the public with the meeting materials for that October 24th meeting. Did I miss anything?
I want to thank the members who have been serving on the study advisory group for your participation. We'll be doing an internal staff level review of the draft LRTP that is being provided by our consulting team, after which we'll get it on to the council members for your review. Next item is the coordinated plan, which is in its final draft. And Lauren or Stacy, anything you want to add to that?
We'll introduce it at the October meeting as well, just an update, and then we'll be asking members to adopt that on the November 28th policy board meeting.
Okay. Moving along, we have the 2020 FHWA urban area boundary adjustments. We've talked about this at previous meetings. So New York State DOT is creating a URL online map to view the proposed urban area boundary adjustments. The Transportation Council is asked to review, engage affected local municipalities, and provide an email supporting the adjusted urban areas, or it can take a formal action and adopt a resolution formally supporting the adjustments. So here just really to ask for the council's guidance, whether the preference would be to do a formal resolution or whether we can simply respond by email supporting the adjusted urban areas.
Ellen, I'm sorry to sound ignorant, but what impact would that have on us, the adjustment of any boundaries?
I don't think it will have an impact. We added, we recommended adding an area. I'm sorry for the people online. I'm not going to be able, you won't see what I'm doing. I believe we added this area here. Because of the several warehouses proposed. It's off of 17M. South of 17M, there's a big RDM warehouse proposed in there. So that was like our one adjustment. But it's pretty much, I don't know, Stacy, anything you would add? I don't think it really affects us.
No, it shouldn't.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
When you say DOT, does that mean there's more opportunities for them to upgrade the roads or fix the road?
It's not so much that, like with those areas that are in the urban boundaries are eligible for the
the highway funding.
federal highway funding.
With certain funding. Yeah, certain funding. Yeah,
So there's some advantage.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It really impacts the minor collectors, whether they're rural or urban,
Right.
which none of those should be impacted with this latest draft. And this is also, just to be clear, it's not the same as FTA uses. They use the actual census boundaries, not the adjusted boundaries. This is just for the FHWA funding.
I guess as a reminder, because we had introduced these at the August 15th meeting. So like Alan said, this is almost exactly what it was in 2010, the adjusted areas. We just added, as Alan said, the area right here. So these roads will now be included and eligible for urban funding. And then just the areas that were extended out in Port Jervis, but otherwise no areas were taken out of the boundaries. So if you were eligible in under 2010, you'd still be eligible in 2020.
Any other questions? Okay,
So,
I think we're good.
so we're supporting via email? Is that okay? Or resolution?
It's okay with me.
Support.
Okay.
All right, thank you. We'll get that email out. I'm gonna skip over the next item on the agenda, Village of Curacao bus request discussion. Gedalia had asked if we could hold off till 10:30 when he'll be able to join the call. So we're gonna move on. We'll move on to new business. And I'll ask Lauren to go over the first item, which is the apportionment of 2023 FTA Section 5307, 5340 formula funds within the Mid-Hudson Valley Transportation Management Area. Oh, yeah, well, let's come back to that. I
Okay,
won't forget,
okay.
but thank you, yes.
Yeah, so the next two items are the apportionment of the federal fiscal year 2023 FTA funds for the Mid-Hudson Valley Transportation Management Area. This is based on the 2010 census area for the Newburgh urbanized area. So we still do have to split with New Jersey. But so this is for FTA Section 5307 funding, and then the next we'll show is the Section 5339. So first we'll look at the 5307 funding. So the full 2023 allocation is just over 27 million for our MPO areas for that TMA area. So it's split between the three MPOs within New York, Dutchess, Orange, and Ulster. Also, there's a portion that goes to MTA and a small portion that goes to New Jersey. And then between the 2022 and the 2023, we did change the way that we looked at the formulas. This is because previously we had a lot of leftover funding and that unallocated, and then we'd have to come back and do more resolutions to split that up. So the TMA as a whole decided to look at a different formula. So it is based on operating expenses. So in 2022, just in comparison, Orange County got 9.2 million with the total having 5.2 million unallocated for the 2022 split. And in 2023, OC is receiving around 11.5 million, and there's only 2.5 million unallocated for future projects. As a reminder, Section 5307 urbanized area funding is a program. It's the largest FTA grant program, and it makes federal resources available to urban areas for transit capital, operating assistance, and whatnot. So are there any questions on the 5307 allocations? Okay, we'll just look at the 5339. So again, this is the similar split. It's slightly higher than the 2022 because of inflation. So where Orange County is receiving 759,000, and last year we got 728,000. So just a slight increase there.
I think the allocations are favorable to the Orange County Transportation Council. So probably the main takeaway. Lauren, thank you. So I inadvertently skipped over the Transportation Improvement Program, local project sponsor updates. Just want to provide an opportunity for local project sponsors to provide updates.
Well, our project is out to bid.
Right.
Thanks to the council and the additional OCTC money that was obtained and the county, we should be successful. So we've gotten a lot of bites on the bids already. So it's a good thing. So thank you all.
Thanks.
Right. That's a great project. That's
It'd be great. It was,
pedestrian project.
you know, it ties in with the whole counties look at bicycle transportation, et et cetera. So.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, for Middletown traffic operations, we're moving along with the construction and we're making really major progress there. And we're just gonna keep going until next year. Hopefully next year will be done.
It's very good. It's come along nicely.
City of Newburgh, the city issued for bid, it's Walsh Road over the Quissake Creek Bridge replacement. The bids came in, lowest bid was 5.2 million. So there was a funding shortfall of about 2.6 million. And the city was able to use its New York State DOT touring route funds to make up that difference. So it's not coming back to the council for any more money. And that project is being awarded.
That's wonderful. Any other local project sponsor updates?
Crawford sidewalks are continuing. A little bit of problem over the summer with the weather, with the rain. We had one that we had to push into spring of 2024. We met with we had a right-of-way issue. We seemed to have convinced him yesterday to sign off. So we're hoping to start that Route 52 project first thing in the spring. So,
Charlie, thank you. Anyone else? All right, so next we'll go over the apportionment of the federal transit funding from the American Rescue Plan for 2021 in the Mid-Hudson Valley TMA. So if you recall, back on March 11th, 2021, the American Rescue Act was signed into law to support the nation's public transit systems as they continue to respond to the COVID support the nation's public transit systems. So we had that money allocated to us as a result of the COVID pandemic response. The New York portion of the Poughkeepsie-Newburgh urbanized area that was received was $65 million. The ARPA funds were adopted in Resolution 2205. 28.484 million was left unallocated for future TMA programming. We met with our colleagues over in Dutchess and Ulster, went back and forth, also had meetings of our TMA and arrived at a recommended split of that funding. So the three MPOs have decided to split the unallocated funding and spend it down on operating cost, 100%, switching the funds sets aside for operating assistance to capital purchases and allowing for more flexibility in our spending timeline. Because with the ARPA funding, as you know, either we use those funds and allocate them or risk, having them clawed back. So I think we came to a very good consensus on the allocation, and we'll be asking for the board's endorsement of that.
Alan, what's the county plan on doing with the funds?
Yeah, that would be a question.
Well, we're gonna use these funds for operating assistance. So
what is that for?
current we have contracts.
Alan, do you want me to chime in? Sorry, I sound horrible, everybody. This is Rob.
Yeah.
So we're going to leverage these funds to continue the 100% operating assistance to all the bus operators. So since CARES came out, the bus operators haven't had a local match as far as federal operating assistance, which is typically 50-50 match, federal to state to local. So this continues to support the local bus operators with 100% federal for their operations.
All 15 million?
Yeah.
Yep.
What is their budget annually?
That's a good question, but this should take us for another 2 years. When we did the estimates, it was 2 years worth of funding. So it's hard to say for sure if it will last the 2 years. We're confident that it will, but expenses change unexpectedly, as we all know.
2 years worth of match, right?
This is 2 years worth of 100% federal operating assistance to cover the bus operators. So for another 2 years, there won't be any local match from the operators if this money lasts as projected. for 2 years, there won't be any local match from bus operators for federal operating assistance.
And which operators does that cover?
All of them. Anyone that gets funding in Orange County. So it would be all the town dial rides, it would be all the 3 local fixed route services and the paratransit service.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Rob, thank you.
You're welcome.
And this also, potentially frees up other 5307 funding, for capital. So it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Now, we also have the apportionment of federal transit funding from the coronavirus response and relief CRISA program. And again, we met with our colleagues at the NPO and arrived at a CRISA allocation, which you see is up there on the screen. So Orange County projected is a little under $1 million for Orange County, and you see the split there on the screen. And so when we
So
get,
Alan, I'm sorry, you guys are negotiating for these numbers because I see Orange County is getting like the lion's share, which
Yeah.
is very good. I mean, is that something negotiable? I mean, is that something you guys are?
well, part of it's based on, the ridership and utilization of the services. If you recall, about a year ago, there was a point where, I don't know if it's DOT or FTA was thinking of changing the formula, and it resulted in a dramatic decrease for the chart.
Sure.
Yeah, so we, asked them to revisit that, which they did.
Yep.
And so that maintained our allocation. But, as you can see, Dutchess and Orange, have the 2 of the more robust transit services, in the TMA. But it's, we have to make decisions within the TMA by consensus. And so we're always looking to, arrive at a fair and equitable distribution of funding based on the needs of the council members. So, yeah. So with that, these items will show up at our, I'm going to wait. I want to give, I got 5 minutes. So I can burn up 5 minutes. So I'll go off on a few tangents. Lauren, anything else we need to cover before I'm waiting for Gedalia.
I mean, we could, I think there's still a section in the policy board on updates, so we could move it to the policy board and go through some of those resolutions, and then when Gedalia joins, go back to it.
Yeah,
I could ask a question.
yes.
I had asked about the previous round of Bridge New York and the process by which
Yes.
that was determined. Our understanding on the council going in was it was going to be a locally focused analysis. Then it turned out that the decisions were made by DOT outside of that.
No, I wouldn't, I said, that would be, I think, a mischaracterization. So we were asked, when I say we, the Transportation Council, so myself, Lauren, and Ryan McGuire from Orange County were asked to review applications that came through Bridge New York. And DOT had staff members assigned to it, and there were other staff members as well. So the way it works, we review, rank, and rate the applications based on a set criteria independently of one another. And then those scores go to a central clearinghouse. And then there was a meeting up in Poughkeepsie where the reviewers then, in a room reviewed the applications. If it was a specific Orange County Bridge project, Ryan and I were asked to leave the room. Our scores were not included in that analyses. And I'm assuming the same would apply if there was one of the reviewers, they couldn't review their own bridge. But then there was, discussion amongst the reviewers for each of the projects. And then a decision was made in terms of which projects, rose to the top and would be funded.
So the question then would be locally, you, Lauren, Ryan, were
Yeah.
part of an evaluation committee locally that then forwarded those to this greater meeting. So wait one second. My question is, what were the criteria, if you can share them? I don't want to belabor this meeting with it, but it'd be
yeah.
nice that if we could get that information. Because for instance, of the 9 million awarded in Orange County, 5.6 went to Orange County. Now, maybe that's fair, maybe it's not. I mean, Orange County got $70 million from ARPA money.
Right.
It's hard to believe they needed 5.6 to do bridges. So I think for the council members, it would be interesting to know what your criteria was and how that played out. That's all. And that could be done at a future date, but.
Yes,
I
and
would
that
like-
criteria was also in the guidance for the Bridge in New York program. I'm just, if you want to look at it sooner than later. And just to step back further, Alan, I think to see the bigger picture. So this year, New York was administered through each of the MPOs. In the past, it was through New York State.
Right, I get that.
So, really, State DOT just helped guide the MPO in setting up their scoring teams. I
Yeah.
feel like there was a representative also from the town. Didn't you also have?
Yes,
No,
yes.
there was also a
I
town,
think,
yeah.
correct?
So each
Yeah.
scoring team for each MPO had someone from the county, from the municipality.
I think it was one of the town
then-
superintendents.
It was a highway guy.
superintendent.
Highway
Yeah.
superintendent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like Alan said, then they, had their meetings using the guidance that was provided in the program. And then came together and reached consensus. And then the only last step that did happen is once each of the MPOs came up with their recommended list, then that did go through a final review for New York State DOT, but more from a constructability and cost. Okay, because again, we're always trying to make sure that, did the team maybe miss something? And is this bridge gonna cost twice as much, right? So it went through that final review.
Yeah.
And then, but we can definitely get you. the
Yeah, it's not so
criteria.
much of a DOT issue for me. It's more of a council issue. And look, we're all part of Orange County, we get it.
Yeah.
There's bridges that need to get fixed, but there's also bridges probably in each one of these towns that might have benefited. From what I understood was a 15% allocation of that Bridge New York money was supposed to go to local, non-traditional roads, right, non-federal roads.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with
So
that.
I don't know what
Yeah.
that 15% number is. But it'd be
There is
interesting to know
still
that
some
too.
dollars left, and then we were
Yes.
gonna come back to the council, with this.
How many applications did Orange County receive? 8. Okay, and
Yeah.
you were able to award 3 out of the 8 or? what?
For, I think, Walkill, which is fine, we love Walkill.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But- And not to knock Orange County, it's just that,
Yeah.
listen, they got a lot of money from ARPA. So,
No, understood. I'm not being defensive when I say it, but our score, we were not allowed to score those, those of us from Orange County. So, we did not score those. bridges.
Unallocated off-system bridge funding, do you have?
I think it's close to 2 million, so there are some
good.
dollars in the unallocated
oh, that's
off-system
fine, yeah.
that we want to come back to the
It's
council.
really a philosophical question
Yeah.
between the council and the county, really, is to,
Yeah, there's one project that was like, just missed getting funded that might actually benefit from that, but, I wanted to get through this process and then come back to the council. So,
I think it's an important conversation though, because I think overall, this new strategy, I think overall was successful, right? But I would say.
For the winners, right?
Yeah. I just from a standpoint of speed and getting good local input, I think it was, so I'm hopeful that down at Bridge, New York, will go the same way. So I would definitely say the council at this point should have those discussions.
Yeah.
Because you can tweak it, right? This was the first time, so maybe there is some opportunity for, kind of hearing more transparency, or maybe you want to see that tentative list. So that, there's room probably for improvement, so that in 2 years from now, if it goes in the same direction, you can incorporate that.
I guess I really support Michael with his request about, we need just the guidance. How can we improve our application, basically?
Okay.
You're scoring, what are you scoring? We're scoring, we're looking for this and this and this. I mean, one of the bridges, it's been red flagged by DOT for many years in Middletown. And
Yeah.
still we didn't get funded. I'm not saying the other ones are not more, but we need to know how to improve our future applications.
Do you have a grant writer?
The
So here's
application
something else.
process
So-
is fairly onerous too. I mean, it's not like putting that application together is inexpensive.
Right.
Exactly.
Here's
So
another
if you
thing
know
that-
your
Can I just-
project has
one
a
second.
chance.
So our grant writer wrote a grant for Bridge New York for us. And we did not obviously get the money, but we then had a recap afterwards.
That's what I was gonna
And they
say.
told us why
Yeah.
we didn't get the money. So there are areas where we can improve it, which we're gonna shut the road down, because that was one of the issues. We have 100-year-old, it's like a bridge culvert, whatever you want to call it. So, we were informed through those meetings.
I was gonna suggest the same thing, is that for any municipality maybe that, didn't get funded in this round, if you want more specific insight, we can, schedule a meeting.
Do a debrief.
Yep.
We did that like 2 years ago in the previous application, and we tried to accommodate, but the person, I don't think he's even there, the guy who did the debriefing for us. It's just, he's giving his personal, if there's some guidelines in there, the scoring, like Alan, he said we have to do scoring in there. This one, 0 out of 10 for this point. This is what we need, your scoring basically sheet in there, then we'll know what to concentrate and focus on. And like Michael was saying, these are very expensive to put together. It's not like, because you have to have a cost estimate, like you said, preliminary plans and reasons and justification. It's a significant amount of work that goes into it.
And then the engineers, from what I understand, the engineers doing your preliminary plans are not allowed to be involved in the construction.
No,
Not true.
They have to be your engineer has to be on the DOT list.
DOT list. Yeah, but when we did the bridge, you guys wrote all the specs for it and everything.
Right, so we're not on the DOT list, so we wouldn't.
So that's why.
Yeah, that's why.
Okay.
Like.
Get on the list.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to bring up a point. Also, you get additional points if your application is reviewed or submitted through a professional engineering firm. And yes, the firm has to be in the LDSA list for region.
Okay.
so it would be helpful if you get these scoring points for us, see what we're.
I'm sure we can share the rating criteria. that
Oh,
we use.
absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll do that as a starter, and I would encourage, those members, who weren't successful this round to reach out to DOT, because I think just having that ability to be briefed on, why certain things rated higher and why you got less points and other aspects of the application.
Alan? This is Ryan over at DPW.
Ryan, yes.
Could I just add something to the discussion?
Yeah.
I think a lot of this scoring, there's a lot of discussion about right-of-way, and anything you can do to identify property boundaries or highway boundaries really, I think, adds to your score because right-of-way becomes a monstrous task during the development of these projects, and that causes delivery risk. And I think that was one of the higher point values in the scoring chart. So if there's any record surveys that you might have at your building department, or highway maps, or record bridge plans, or anything that you can have a good idea of what your property boundaries are, which would eliminate the need for temporary easements property acquisition, etc. And I think that would definitely increase everybody's score, if you could supply that.
So if the bridge is
That's a good
bad and
point.
falling apart and you don't have right of way, you're out of luck.
Well, it becomes a project delivery concern,
Yeah.
right?
Right, but the funding that is used for that program, Orange County, this council also has access to those funds directly. So, and it sounds like you have some unallocated. So again, understanding that, right, then maybe those are bridges that are better if you're gonna take more of a strategic, approach this more strategically, right? You kind of understand all of your needs in the MPO, and you're gonna know some candidates are gonna be better for Bridge to New York because it has a 2-year, right? And then some of these other structures might be better because there might be high need, but also high risk. That
Yeah.
might be better for the Orange County, bridge funding.
Off system.
Off system,
Yes,
that's
we don't have that
through,
special.
that's through the
Off
MPO.
system.
Yeah.
No, it's.
So are you saying that I can apply, Town of Monroe can apply through the Orange County Transportation Council for
Bridge funding, yeah.
bridge funding?
Yeah.
Okay.
They have some unallocated. Now, how this board though decides to do that, are you gonna do call for a project? Are you gonna just distribute it within that's all it, the stage
Yeah,
of
we need to have
discussion.
more conversations on that.
Yeah, each MPO does it a little different.
That, just to speak to the issue that Ryan raised, and this is something, I don't know, would letters of intent to grant temporary or permanent easements help? Or in the application,
I don't know, but more information usually does help, so.
that might be something you can talk to your local attorney about to see. If it's maybe an option, if you have a bridge and you don't have site control, do a letter of intent to grant either temporary easement or property acquisition.
Gotcha.
At least as an indicator of that.
Sure.
Gedalia, it's on now.
Oh,
Yes, yes.
Gedalia.
Yes.
Hello. Thank you, everybody, for waiting. Appreciate it deeply.
Oh, you're welcome. So I wanted to afford you an opportunity to talk a little bit about Curious Ruel's bus request, and then we can have a little discussion on that.
So thank you. We already had a detailed discussion at the first meeting, and everybody had an opportunity to read the letter that we outlined in detail, the growth in the program. And I also had a chance to read the meeting afterwards where Bob Parrington so eloquently described the situation. I was away in Israel for that meeting, so I wasn't able to join in person. And some of the points that Bob made was that the fact that the ridership is increasing in Kiryas Joel is actually benefiting the county coffers in general because funding is coming in based on ridership. And since this is part of the county program, if the county could show a couple of 100,000 more riders using the mass transit system, everybody's benefiting through the federal formula that's coming into the county. And additional buses is only going to help increase those numbers. So looking at it from a financial impact, the more buses in Kiryas Joel, the more riders, the more funding coming to Orange County that's being distributed to all the providers. Those are points that I haven't made in the letter, but the points that I have made is the status on the ground in the trenches when buses are having to leave stops without picking up everybody because the bus is jam-packed, and the tremendous growth. We had 1 week last week, and again, this is not a normal week. It's the week before school, so people go for preschool shopping and all that. But we hit 26,000 passengers in a single week. If that would be the norm, that would be over 1 million riders a year. Now, we understand this is a peak and it's not meant to be the standard, but again, this month we hit 98,000 passengers for the month. And again, this is a peak month. It's before the Jewish high holidays. It's before school is opening. People going out, doing lots and lots of shopping. The weather was beautiful. And it definitely translated into the numbers. But we cannot serve 100,000 people safely with the amount of buses we have. And we're leaving a lot of people without serving them. In addition, buses are riding jam-packed with standing people, and you're dealing with carriages and twin carriages, kids, babies. So I'm replaying what we wrote in the letter, what I've made the plea in the opening meeting, and I'm relying that the plea is detailed enough. I'm opening myself for questions that people may have. I don't want to reiterate everything we have written and said before. We want to give people an opportunity to have a discussion and a dialogue. At the last meetings, we also talked about expanding the Middletown service and other services within the county. We are very much pro mass transit, getting cars off the road, getting people to places where they need to go by mass transit. And we're team players when it comes to providing these services. But this is a round that Curious Joel needs everybody's help in making sure the mass transit system works. Again, getting cars off the road, getting taxis off the roads, and programming people to use mass transit. And when the opportunity arises and other communities have needs, of course, we will be a participant in providing for those needs as well. So with that, if people have questions or discussions, of course, Rob knows everyone's system and all the numbers, and we're working very closely with the County Department of Planning on making sure that we file all the proper reports with the county, with the state, with the federal. So every passenger is counted, and every passenger brings a return to the county overall. So any discussion, any questions, I'm here to answer.
Gedalia, thank you. That's, I just want to say that, Rob and I, do keep an eye on, what's happening in each of the communities. There clearly is, a need here for the additional buses. Gedalia, I know that, you've had your engineers, provide some analyses of the needs. Rob, I see you're on. Rob, can you add a little bit to the discussion before we go to questions of the board members?
So let me just respond to the point you just raised, and of course I'll let Bob respond. When we started seeing this this tremendous growth, we immediately realized that we're going to need some help. We consulted with Rob on some names who could help us fill out all the reports, making sure that we're not missing a person. And one of the names that we received is the firm Creighton Manning. We contracted with Creighton Manning for doing the reports, but we also contracted with Creighton Manning for doing a system analysis, both on the current fleet we have, how we could best run the routes, what improvements we need to have, how many buses we should be working for. Some of the reports on the current fleet, we've gotten feedback, but on future growth analysis, statistics, we have not gotten that far yet, because as you see, that a lot of it is off the chart. and it's some sort of you buy the buses, they'll come, and everybody wants them to come. So because the more mass transit, the less cars, the less other methods of vehicles, and it's better for the environment, it's better for safety, it's better for convenience, and that's why mass transit is so important. So I don't have everything that you would want to see in a comprehensive study as of now, but we do have the charts and the numbers and the growth rate. At this point, they're trying to tweak some of the routes, and also there's a lot of discussion whether or not we should continue with fixed route plus dial-a ride, or we should incorporate the dial-a ride into more fixed route services instead of having like one-on-one. So we are using some of the buses from dial-a ride for fixed route when there's breakdowns, and of course those are not meant for carriages and for heavy uses, but that's the best we have at this point. But we are working on a comprehensive analysis, hopefully next few months.
Rob?
The numbers are phenomenal. 100,000 in a month is crazy. If you look at, Newburgh does maybe 130,000 in a year. There's obviously a lot of ridership there. I know I would also be really interested to see what Creighton Manning has or does come up with. That obviously adds more backup to this story or tells more of the story. But it's some incredible numbers, coming out of Curious Joel, honestly, right now.
So, Gedalia, thank you. I think one of the issues, when we looked at the letter, at least my dial-up system looked at the letter, is the concern about duplication of service. So I'm pleased to hear that you've engaged Creighton Manning to do this study. It would be helpful, I think, for all of us to understand. I believe buses should be where people are going to use them, so that makes sense to me. We just want to make sure that we're doing it efficiently, I think.
So I'm the one.
And having an opportunity now to speak to multiple municipal leaders, even if these 10 buses are approved, and we are hopeful it would be, it still has to go through a purchase process and a manufacturing process. If anybody has buses sitting around without being used and could lend us those buses or lease us those buses for the duration that these 10 buses would arrive, I'm putting in a formal plea. If you have any buses sitting around that is in usable form, that we could incorporate into our system for a year and a half until these buses arrive, that would be greatly appreciated. And that goes to your point, not having buses sit around, but having buses serve the people.
So I'm the one who sent the email to the Orange County Transportation Council and asked for further information on this. I sent it to some of the members here. In my mind, I want to see the numbers. I know for sure that Newburgh's lacking. I know that City of Middletown has limited hours. I hear complaints over at Walden. I hear complaints from Montgomery Dial Bus. So I think it's maybe Gedalia obviously needs some buses, but I believe a study should be done as far as the whole county goes. I think there are other places that need buses too. So whether or not Gedalia needs 10 buses, I don't know. I'd like to see Creighton Manning's report. I also would like Gedalia mentions it brings in more money. I want to see yes, more money might come in, but I'd like to see the amount of money comes in versus the bus cost. Because if X comes in, but the buses are 3 times X, then maybe.
So we could definitely ask the county to share the numbers that we're submitting on a monthly basis for Curious Joel. And I want to pitch very strongly that people shouldn't be viewing this, that there is a pot of 10 buses and Curious Joel wants it all. Nobody has established that to be the case. We are going by the understanding that anybody that has a need for buses and could show the need and prove the need should be getting buses. So it's not either us or someone else. And we're hopeful that we're not taking away anybody else's buses, and it shouldn't be viewed in that light. Anybody that's making a case for buses, should make the case and have it stand on its own merits. And if the merits are there, the buses should be delivered.
I just want to echo Gedalia's statement there. I'm very confident, we have sufficient funding to provide the capital investment for Middletown, Newburgh, Curious Joel, and other communities that have needs. That funding is there. And actually, the resolutions that you'll be acting on soon, where we're reallocating, some of the TMA money, the Chris and ARPA funding for operating, will free up even further dollars for us. So
you're saying there's money there for Middletown, I believe, stops at 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
I believe Newburgh is limited. I'm not a pro on Newburgh. I know for sure complaints for the town of Montgomery Crawford dial bus are coming in. So you're telling me if they were to get in touch with you, there's enough money for Gedalia's 10 buses if they're needed, once we see the surveys and how they calculated the numbers, and these other towns might need them. You're saying there's enough money for those?
There is.
Okay, I'd like to see that.
And I wanna ask, and you repeated a few times that you want to see the numbers. The numbers are outlined in the letter that we submitted. We could share right now the charts of the last 4 years of numbers. The numbers are there. Craig Manning is not going to have their overall analysis, because their analysis deals with fare collection upgrades, it deals with bus stop upgrades, it deals with bus shelters, it deals with routes, it deals with so many other things. I would beg you very strongly that, since the numbers are out there and we have transparently submitted numbers for the last 5 years on a monthly basis to the county, and it's in everybody's possession, or it could be in everybody's possession, that those numbers speak already on itself so loud and stands on its own legs, that waiting for anything beyond those numbers, I will provide that when it becomes available. It's a couple of months away. We've submitted this request already a couple of months ago. It would be grossly unfair for us to have to wait for a vote or for action when the numbers are there, but we just don't have a study by Craig Manning. And by the way, it's not a study that the county has ever requested of us or that we were mandated to do. It's a study that we're doing voluntary, and I will share voluntarily the results of that study. But please don't make us wait for the buses until that study is out there. The numbers speaks for themselves. The numbers are out there. Everybody could see it. My letter is out there for a couple of months. Please don't delay this vote.
What I would like to offer is we ran the numbers internally. I think we ran it for 6 buses. Rob, was it 6 for replacement buses for KJ?
7.
7.
7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, we already have 3 buses. We have funding for 3 buses already in grants, leftover grants that would be available. So we'd only have to add 7, new to the tip. But I'd like to point out, just go back for a second, that one of the tip actions the council should know, and I mentioned this, I believe, the last meeting as well, that one of the tip actions today includes the 3 additional buses at Middletown for the Middletown service that's coming out of the recommended upgrade to the service, the changes to the service, so that their fleet will double in size, so we can expand the hours and expand the service in Middletown. One of the tip actions today includes those 3 additional buses.
Hey, can I ask a question? I really would like some clarification on the dial-a-ride agreement. Because
Okay.
there's a percentage of those riders that are being picked up in the town of Monroe and taken back into KJ. And the way I read the agreement, that's not allowed unless there's an IMA with the municipalities, number one. Number two, the agreement, from what I understand, states that if a village in a town, meaning the same village, meaning the villages in the town, has a dial-a-ride program, that they're allowed to go 1 mile outside their village boundaries to pick up in their town, not in another town. I'm gonna say that we've had multiple issues with the buses coming from Tyrese Joel into the town of Monroe. One of them being they're numbered the same in some instances. And I believe their numbers are in the 30s. And we've gotten calls that, the driver cut this person off, or, he was driving a little recklessly, or he was on the phone. And, I have to deal with that now.
Understood. I'm going to turn to Rob.
But let me respond for a moment. We are part of what we're contemplating now is doing away with the entire dial-a-ride program and incorporate everything into the fixed route. The numbers that we have shared with the county shows that even though the amount of riders on the dial-a-ride is high from a county's perspective, but in comparison to the fixed route, it's extremely low. It's what is it, a couple of % of the total. The way Creighton Manning looks at it right now is providing routes within the village and then mini routes with the idea of people transferring buses from one to another. The dial-a-ride buses may be implemented as part of those mini routes, all running within the Courage Joel boundaries. And not having to leave Courage Joel. Again, this is a couple of months down. We don't know yet for sure, but of course, renumbering is a no-brainer. If that's an issue, and I would let the county coordinate that, but I would be very open to renumbering buses if there is any confusion. I don't mind having different design on buses if there is any confusion. On the issue of leaving Courage Joel, we went through this before with the county, and the county showed us the citation within the state regs that shows how far a bus system could leave outside its municipality, and we're strictly enforcing that measurement, and we're not
with an IMA, Gedalia. That's with an IMA. You do not have an IMA.
I wasn't aware that's with an IMA, but I let the county advise us on that, and whatever the county says, that goes. So if the county would look into that chapter of the regulation and tell us that it's 1 mile with an IMA, then it's 1 mile with an IMA. We want to be 100% squarely within the regulations.
It sounds to me that Rob and I need to do a little research internally, and then we will reach out. Tony will reach out to you. We'll reach out to Gedalia if we have to get. I want to get the issue resolved.
Yes, absolutely.
In which to do that. So
I wasn't aware that this is. I wasn't aware that this is an issue in front of the town. I know when the town of Palm Tree split away from the town of Monroe, this was an issue like the first few months. And I have to say that I thought it was resolved with the county's clarification. But if it's not, I'm very open to whatever the county advises us to do based on the regulations.
Okay, yeah, it's from my perspective, I want to make sure we're in full compliance with the regs. So we will research this, and Rob and I will be back in touch with Gedalia and Tony and
So refocus on the issue, right? So there's Charlie, right? So there's
buses allocated for Newburgh, Middletown, I'm looking at this tip amendment, and KJ, right? It's not affecting operating for our systems.
Yeah.
And there's adequate money to give if Crawford ends up needing 2 more buses, or whatever it is.
It's Crawford, Montgomery.
There's money, right, there's money there to do that. Is that
Absolutely.
what we're hearing from Alan? Right?
Yes.
So,
That's what Alan told me.
so again, in this,
No,
I
it's
think
there.
in the spirit of getting people
I'm
on the
being recorded,
buses,
so.
it shouldn't hold up purchasing buses.
No, but we have not come up with a number there.
Well, they have.
Alan,
Alan and
10,
Rob
you
have
came
the
up
number.
with 7,
Yeah.
Because they had money for the other 3.
And there's,
but they have
there's-
3 in service already.
I think there's 13 buses on this tip amendment.
Right.
Is that correct, Lauren? Unless I don't have the current.
Is it the one I'm pulling up right now? Like,
I can't see it.
let me see, one second.
2304, is that the one we're gonna vote on?
Yes,
later?
sir, that's
Yeah.
18, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
16 passengers.
Yes, sir, exactly. So
None of those buses have anything to do with the request for additional 10 by Curious Stroll. They're all replacement buses minus the 3 additional buses for Middletown, just so people are clear.
Right, and we would propose to come back, we could come back in October with a proposed response to Curious Joe's request. So you could actually see it in a tip amendment. You'll see the dollars, and then Rob and I and Martha will go through our numbers, so we can tell you how much funding we still have available after making this correction.
And I'd like Rob to show me how that ridership is calculated. Do
Okay.
we bring somebody, we drop them off, they get back on, how do we do in those counts? And make sure there's no duplication in counts.
Okay, Rob, you made a note of that? So,
Yeah, every time someone pays a fare, they get counted.
there you go. Okay. This is a healthy discussion. It's like, that's why we're here. Yeah.
But I also want to remind the committee that a while back when $18 million was allocated to build the Scunnamunk Trail, which came from the similar pot where buses are bought, and I raised the issue at the time that we're voting for $18 million for the Scunnamunk Trail, but it's money that's allocated for transit buses. Is it going to be impacting the transit buses? Curious Joe will be needing additional buses, and everybody at the time committed that it's not going to be impacting the buses, and we all voted in support of that. So it's time to honor the second part of the deal.
I would just add, with the Scunnamunk, the other thing we were running up against is, if we're not spending this funding, we run the risk of funding lapsing. And so that was the other advantage of having the Scunnamunk project is we captured those funds that would have lapsed. And then no one, within the council would have, benefited from those funds.
And that's the point I'm making clear all the time. If one project isn't competing with another, isn't pushing out another, then it should be reviewed on the merits. If it's pushing out somebody else, then it has to be weighed much more carefully.
Yeah, right now we're in a comfortable position where we can accommodate both, and that's what we're looking to do. To have a more robust transportation system that offers more choices, to the.
Thank you.
With that, is there any other discussion, comments?
I just got a quick question. Maybe Rob can help me too. I know Middletown, based on with that newest study, you're getting 3 new ones. Now, Newburgh is in the middle of the study.
Yes.
So if they show that they need 3 more, we're still good or?
Oh, we're still good. Yeah, yes. Yeah. And you have to keep in mind that, as we're expanding the services, theoretically, there'll be a corresponding increase in ridership. And so that also translates into additional funding.
Right, well, like with Middletown and Newburgh, once they tackle what hours, where we're going, the whole goal is to up the ridership along with KJ, huh?
Yeah, we want to have a system that's responsive to the needs of the community. So, if someone needs, if they're working 9 to 5 and the bus stops at 5, but they still need to go shopping for their family, you know, we need the hours to be extended for that purpose. And same if someone's working, you know, if they're able to get to work, but there's no ride home, that's a problem.
That's
So,
my problem in Newbury. I got lots of jobs for transportation.
yeah, we're trying to resolve that with these studies. If there is,
It's enough for everybody.
I think there is, and you know, we have in the docket, and I want to assure Mike, it's, if we weren't so short-staffed, we would have been working on an RFP for a countywide transit feasibility services study. That's something that's in our UPWP. The funding is there. We just, at the moment, can't get that one off the ground, but it's, I do promise you that that's something that we'll be moving forward with.
Someday.
With that, if there are no further conversation, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Before you vote on motion to adjourn,
Yeah.
may I ask for a vote on the 10 buses today? Do it in the holiday spirit.
Gedalia, what I could offer is we'll have a tip amendment prepared for the October meeting to bring before the board, and we'll circulate it well in advance of that with the intent of being able, we'll do a back-to-back meeting in October so that we can take action.
It has to go out.
But I want to make sure, since you're voting on some buses today, and I know Rob is very diligent, he's going to start the process of purchasing buses. He's going to start the process of manufacturing buses. I want to be able to manufacture and do the procurement process together instead of having to wait for a separate procurement process. So either Rob is going to hold off on procurement on the buses that you are voting today, or we have, I want to be in one large procurement. It makes more economic sense when the county has 10 additional buses as part of the bidding or RFP package and the procurement package.
So we are looking ahead at that separately. We're working on the procurement of buses that will allow us the opportunity to get as many buses as we need. We're hoping a piggyback opportunity will work for us like it has in the past, where we can join another bid where there's no limit as to how many buses we can get off of that bid. We will plan ahead to make sure if we do go to bid ourselves, we will make sure that we have enough options built in so that we are ahead of the game as much as we can be.
Thank you. Always, Rob. Always. Thank you.
What do we need to advance? Okay, the October.
We could introduce it in October, we just couldn't take action and adopt in October, it'd have to go to November, because it does need that public comment period.
Okay, so Gedalia, the recommendation is we would introduce the tip amendment for your additional buses in October and take action in November.
Okay, as long as it doesn't impact the procurement, that was my biggest concern.
Okay.
Thank you.
Spoke to that, so. With that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. So move, Tony.
I'll second.
Oh, okay. All right, so the meeting's adjourned, but don't go anywhere because I'd like to call the September meeting of the Orange County Transportation Council Policy Board